late. We have some technical difficulties we're working through, but we figured we'd just go live straight into it. No pre-show. You don't have to. I'm sorry, you don't get to jam out to the music today, but
I do like our music.
I know music's the best. It's all good though. So yeah, let's talk real estate. We meet every Friday this time live, and we talk about things related to real estate and not. So definitely join us in the conversation. If you're on YouTube, Facebook, you can chat in. We got an exciting guest today. Reed is here. I'm gonna let Papa P kick it off and talk a little bit about how he knows Reed and what Reed does.
Bro, we wanted to bring it in for the New Year episode number 43, and I had some issues last week or the other week about dispoing, and I thought to myself, who could I talk to about JV partnerships and dispoing other people's deals? And I thought of Reed and Equity Cash Offer because I met Reed. What a couple years now, a year and a half now, something like that. A couple years. Yeah.
Yeah, at least a year and a half.
And we've done some deals, man. We've made some money together. We've lost some deals together and closed some deals together, which is part of the nature of the beast. But when I need to move my deals in Texas, I think of Equity Cash Offer and Reed down there, and he works with a lot of wholesalers, partnering with them on selling anything from multifamily, single family. So I couldn't think of anyone better to have this discussion on the right way, the do's and don'ts of JVing and dispoing, and what to expect when partnering with people on dispoing your deal. Because I think more now than ever, that's important. So thanks for coming on, Reed.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, and as kind of like me, like I always gravitate towards big leverage foundation things. Another reason I was excited to have Reed on is just kind of where the market's at. You know, we talk a lot about like what the market's going to do, what are buyers going to do, who's interested, but it's like at this point, you could make the argument dispositions is way more important than acquisitions, guys. It's harder to move deals. So Papa P came up with Reed, met him on the pre-show. We jammed out, had a lot of fun, and we're excited for this. And kind of want to kick it off to you, Reed, just talking about the state of the market, for my opinion there, of dispositions importance versus acquisitions or really any other type part of this business.
What you said a second ago, I agree with. Both aspects are in a lot of ways equally important. But in the market that we're in, there's a lot of inventory, and we're all seeing that. But it actually is making it a little bit more difficult because there's a lot of I don't even know if I'll call them deals anymore. I think because contracts that people are holding and trying to sell.
Yeah, they're not deals; they're just contracts at this point.
Yeah, it's an important distinction that should be made. But the way we look at it is, we've got guys in office who are calling, and there's no shortage of people to talk. And what that does to us is when there's a lot of deals floating around, we have a million emails every morning from wholesalers like us trying to push out. It makes the dispo job a lot more difficult. It takes a lot more time, but I would say generally to get a contract from that initial across the finish line, a lot more legwork. So it's a 180 turn from where we were back in 2021, which is where I really and it was fun. Stuff was selling on an email blast. We were putting stuff out and selling it same day, and we were getting over ask offers. But I would say that at this point we're almost entirely in a kind of scenario. At least as far as the market goes, a good team is really important, and the systems that we've kind of been putting together, so that's kind of how we've been able to, I guess, pivot, because we did have a lot of fun. Like we all did.
The heydays. Hey, so Reed, your audio is a little choppy, and I think it's because of no headphones. And I
right?
think we're missing like every sixth word, I think.
Yeah.
So it's like a fun brain game of trying to fill in the gaps
Give
of
me
what
one
you're saying there. Yeah.
Meantime, while he's doing that, I want to rep this water real quick. Mountain
You found a
Valley
new water?
sparkling
New water.
water. And when people want to know why I drink sparkling water, because I like to say it's a rich man's water. Don't be drinking that flat water. If you got money, you need the sparkling water. And it's from Arkansas. I am so bougie at this point now that I
Wow.
own a mobile home park in Arkansas. I'm only now supporting the state of Arkansas with my water. And it's got good mineral content. The pH levels are good. I feel like I may have found my water, and Publix needs to continue to carry them, please, because I hate every time I pick a water, it's like Publix is like, fuck it,
No,
I'm
we're
gonna stop
done.
carrying. Yeah, I'm gonna stop carrying it.
Did you
But
go
this
and
is
buy them all of them at Publix at your local?
we do, man, we do. My wife Instacarts, and like I'll go in personally into the store, so she Instacarted some. I hit the store up yesterday to get some stuff. I was getting waters. I'm like buying as many of them at a time, and it's glass bottle, so it's good for
Yeah.
the environment. So for all my real estate guys out there, if you're not hydrating, you're doing it wrong. Hydrate with some good mineral content. This is shit.
I'm due for a Whole Foods order. I'm adding that to the top of the list if they have it there. Is that carried by Whole Foods? John, anybody?
I'm not
Audience?
sure.
Anybody in the audience know? That's funny, man, but that goes right into your, all jokes aside, that goes into your being. It's funny how important that is. You're like, hey, I'm being this person now that has property or assets in Arkansas. Like, I'm only supporting that. So I like the subtle ways that you're talking to yourself. You know, Papa P becoming a real estate mogul here, real estate tycoon. I love that. That fired me up. I'm doing a lot of annual. It's the top of the year, so we're doing a lot of annual reflection, a lot of annual planning. Was on the Carrot call yesterday, so a lot of that mindset type stuff. I think Papa P and hopefully everybody on here is really ironing out as Reed
For
is
everyone
coming on live.
listening, right now, I just want everyone to know that audio of the sirens and stuff is coming from Carlos because he lives in shithole Miami where there's nothing but crime and debauchery. So I don't know what hooker's getting arrested right now or what drug dealers got caught with a pound of cocaine, but someone's getting busted right now, dude. I don't know what neighborhood you
This
live
is,
in, bro,
dude.
but
This
that's
is
not
this
right.
is this
That's
is
not right,
literally this is literally one of the nicest neighborhoods.
Apparently
Literally the top
not, 'cause
of
there's some funny
literally
crime
the
out there,
literally
dude.
literally the top of South Beach is a bridge right here. I can see it from
I don't know.
my balcony. But there's
Well,
a
maybe-
train that I don't know why there's so many. We're gonna have to get to the
Sirens?
bottom of this at some point.
Maybe
Yeah,
there's a
always
guru
sirens.
in his Lambo on a high-speed
Yeah,
chase
right.
right
There
now.
are a few
Maybe that's
gurus that
it.
live right by me. Actually, there are a
That's
few
it.
gurus that live right here.
One of them is fleeing the economy right now because he can't
Yeah.
pay his Lambo bill.
All right, he's
Oh,
maybe
we
trying.
got Reed back.
He's maybe
Yeah.
trying to spin up a JV department because he can't supplement enough revenue. Timely Reed's coming on right now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you should
right.
be listening to Reed. Let's dial it back now and let's go back to
Yeah.
what you were saying, where you were talking about 2021, and kind of bring it
Yeah.
back because your audio is coming in great.
Good. Yeah. So the gist of what I was trying to say earlier is that really starting in 2021, that was, I think we can all probably identify it as like a seller's market. It was a lot of fun. We could put stuff out. Our dispo team was running laps. Our in-house team was having a lot of fun. It was a lot harder to get deals, but when we did get them, they would sell quick. They were usually pretty large margins. Everything was selling over ask. It was a good time. Versus now, yeah, right. Versus now, we are in the complete opposite. I would think, and there really is like a strip list of inventory everywhere you look on Facebook, emails, whatever platform you're looking at deals on. There's a lot of contracts, opportunities. There's a lot of stuff to look at. And it gets hard when you've got a dispo team who is trying to stand out. They've got a deal that actually probably is a good deal. And they're trying to sell it to investors who are really tired of looking at
Worn
bad
down.
deals. They are. And it's something that we're seeing a lot. And, I say the over asking because that was cool. Everything sold over ask. We never had to think about it. And the amount of legwork and I would say actual skill is on the dispo side. I think people who started at some point in the last year or two had a little bit of a wake-up call, toward the end of the last summer, because they were like, oh my God, this is still a sales. This whole market is still sales, and doesn't really matter how much you know about what you're doing. If you don't know how to sell, if you never learn how to do that, you're probably, this is probably not the best time to start learning, but Well, things are harder. Things are harder.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, I don't know if it came in on the mic, but our process used to be very quick. We used to we used to brag about it being relatively quick, and it's not as fast anymore. Things, you got to talk to a lot more buyers. You got to figure out who is actually still buying, who's buying what you're selling, and it's become really challenging. But like I said before I started to cut out, like systems really help, and I think the systems that we had were part of the reason why we were able to sort of pivot off of that and into more of like, it's gonna sound funny, but more of like a sales focused dispo role.
Relationships.
100%. Yeah, it's. I mean, we had people on the dispo side who, they of course make relationships, but in a different way now. Their role is mimicking a lot of what the JV role has to do, because I want to know what you're buying. We want to know what's your year goal? I have to know these things now. I need to know how you're going to exit. Like previously, we didn't really need to know that. Not for everybody, anyway. Not every buyer. But it's funny how kind of almost quickly things change. It felt like it was overnight. I know it wasn't. But we all kind of looked up one day and we're like, whoa, this is way harder than it was a couple months ago. I think everybody's feeling that too, which, by the way, is why I think everybody's trying to get a piece of the JV pie.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot of sort of misconceptions when people see, for example, what we're doing or other either bigger or smaller companies are doing, and looks like low-hanging fruit. I mean, it does from the outside. And I think it's like, if you're going to try to go out and maybe build even a small department, even like I was like the one person in the department. And I think if you're going to try to do something like that, or maybe you already have one and you're trying to ramp up, I think that there are a lot of things in that sort of area to consider.
But before we dive into hang on, Carlos, real quick. Before we dive into the JV, the aspect of things, a lot of people, like you're saying, looked up overnight, and it's different. I want to talk about that just real quick. And were you around in 2018, 19 dispoing deals? No. Okay.
No.
I was curious if it feels the same as then, and it's just we all were brilliantly loving the COVID kind of upmarket.
Yeah, I'm post-COVID, right at the beginning of 2021.
Okay.
So relatively recent, actually, almost I guess almost 2 years. So
yeah, cool. That makes sense. You're still moving deals though, right? I mean, I want to make sure that we're not sounding like doom and gloom here. Like there is still business to be done, and the deals have to be right. But
are you shutting down? Are you guys closing your doors? Is that
it? I can't even joke about that. I get in trouble for joking about that. But I mean, the reality is,
I know someone will clip this.
Yeah,
Go all through social media like, I fucking told you.
Yeah, is that Donnie's guy? Yeah.
Donnie's closing.
Yeah, we are closing deals. But I think a really good sort of conversation that we had midsummer, end of summer, when things began to kind of look like they were shifting. We knew about how many transactions we were kind of capable of. We knew what our goals were in the transactions, and we started to see the deal size go down. So, and this was really, I think a lot of credit goes to Don, because he was thinking we don't need to stop doing deals just because they're getting smaller. That's not, we doubled our deal flow, so we knew there was going to be a lot more inventory. So it's if we can get that inventory and get our dispo team up to speed, we're not really going to see a dip. So we had, and our average deal size was probably cut in half. And we honestly made up for it by doubling our actual deal flow.
What?
Probably, I would say beginning of summer, end of Q2 to beginning of Q3, I guess, was anywhere from on the low end 20 transactions. And now I would say we're scraping 40, 35 would be good for the month. So that kind of makes up for the average halved deal size.
Yeah.
But part of that is we're very departmentalized here. We've got departments for every kind of step of it. So Every department just kind of doubled down in our own way. So while JV took advantage of the kind of surplus of inventory that we're still seeing, Dispo had to go a little harder, and then we have a transactions team in house, which is honestly like kind of the bottom of the filter. They had to really step it up to be able to make sure that we could actually get through X amount of files per month. So those are things that people don't think about. You know what I mean?
Back office support. You got to have that back office support for the sales teams.
Yeah.
It's all intermixed.
Yeah, because we can do our thing, but if there's stuff on the title commitment that I don't know, we don't have control over, and we don't know that until TC starts putting their hands in it with title. But yeah, that's kind of like the short and sweet version of we really did see a pretty drastic change in the average assignment fee that we're bringing in. I don't know if I have the average assignment fee that we have right now. I'd probably have to go and actually do numbers on that, which I could share later. At least for the JV department.
I don't know. I mean, it probably jumped during. I know ours did. I mean, ours during the what do you want to call it? The post-pandemic. The last 2 years, whatever you want to call it, post-pandemic, whatever. And it is going back down.
Yeah, definitely. And that's really funny because I think a lot of people, honestly, like myself, granted, I'm with a team. A lot of people who are individuals or started as partners kind of as a result of COVID or during that kind of initial COVID era, all they know is probably really awesome
30K, 40K, 50K rips.
I'm serious. We have people who are, they took a break during 2022 and they're kind of getting back in the game. And I had a conversation with someone the other day and I had to say, I don't know how I'm going to have this conversation, but a 25K built in is not unrealistic if the numbers are there. But I was like, you can't sell stuff at this number anymore, and there's a lot of education that we have to do on the JV side. But that's just a good example of what you're used to a year ago doesn't really exist the same way anymore. To get those big fees, you got to buy really steep. And that's something that I think a lot of people don't know how to do, I think, put plainly. But times like this will probably change that, in my opinion. Or I'm hoping they will.
Well, getting up to speed, and we have so much stuff from Reed here, guys, for you guys listening, so many pieces of strategy and advice that you can take from Reed on every single, asset of this business. Curious for those listening, if you had an acquisitions team, 2-3 people, how would you go about building a JV department? We've heard some kind of strategy insights from you over the last 2 years that you've been doing this, but walk us through that a little bit for someone that might be listening and thinking about that.
And this is a good question, and it comes up a lot. We do a monthly workshop where we bring people into our office and we kind of open the books. And the purpose is to scale. And this is something that comes up. A lot of these guys are, doing pretty good numbers as small teams, and they see what we're doing on the JV side, and they all ask what. There's 2 or 3 of us. How do we start to even just get a couple deals a month on the JV side? Because if you look at it, and I think that this is why people see it as an easy grab, it's a pretty low overhead seat to fill. There's no marketing dollars in the same way that there is for in-house, right? You're not buying the leads. You're having to go and really find the leads. There's some marketing involved, but, I don't think it's comparable to what we have to do for in-house. But what I would do before you try to bring in another acquisitions who can partner with other companies and build those relationships is get a dispo. Get somebody dedicated for dispo. If you don't have that, you need to, or in my opinion, right? Otherwise, if you have a couple acquisitions people, if you're selling a few deals in-house, you've got a dispo person or 2 dispo people, and you're selling X amount of deals every month, I would do exactly what we did and hire someone just to do JV deals. I had no previous experience in this industry, but I had a lot of really good people in here that were able to teach me exactly what I needed to know to be able to build relationships and learn about real estate honestly as I go. Right there, this was a learn as I go thing. It was pretty intimidating, but I think if you get someone who knows how to talk to people and who knows how to like build some of the relationships I have today are people I met within that first couple months, right? So when you break down like how much money has come in from those relationships, like you just need someone that can do that. So I think you find someone who fits sort of the role, right? Who can talk to people, who is able to do that. And then you just try to get a couple deals a month, because we started with, it was rough when we started. And a couple deals a month turned into like a JV department that is responsible for 30 contracts closed a month, So it takes a while, but I think the biggest issue that I see, at least in our monthly workshop, is people taking their dispo agent and having them run the JV like deal flow, which doesn't make any sense if you've got to, like, especially right now when it's harder to sell a deal than it has been in a long time. I don't see that it makes a lot of sense to take your dispo person away from their actual money-making sort of activities and then have them talk to people. You know what I mean? Like those are two separate roles, and I think people make the mistake of trying to combine JV with something else. And it's a low overhead seat. Pay somebody a base salary and give them like a cool commission to look up to, and you'll make money. Deals will come in. I just think you need to have the infrastructure to get them moved,
Let's maybe break the roles down for people, because me, never having done real estate, just working in real estate software. What's the difference between a dispo agent and a JV agent, whatever you want to call them?
That is a good question, because like in our office, we're very departmentalized, and dispo and JV are two separate departments, but we work in tandem, right? We talk a lot in office about passing the baton off. That's a phrasing that we use quite often, but most times the baton is being held by both JV and dispo kind of simultaneously. And the big distinction is that I'm not talking to buyers at all. And anytime I have a buyer that I'm talking to about anything, I pass that to dispo. That's what they do. They have all their systems in place to be able to support that. And my role is essentially acquisitions. So I'm business to business strictly. And I'm going to seek out people like Brandin or anybody else to acquire their deal, and then we pass that off to dispo at that point. So the roles that I think really are important in JV is I refer to myself as an underwriter, because that's essentially what I am. I'm underwriting your deal to make sure that we're going to be able to perform on it.
Yeah.
And if we agree that it's something we could do, that's when we take it down, and that's when dispo does their thing. So
that's interesting. Like you don't even pass it to your dispo department until you're like, I'm confident that they can knock us out of the park.
Yeah.
What happened to the one on Penrod, bro? Remember that clusterfuck? Remember that one that we
I remember Penrod. But like this happens
God,
sometimes.
that guy was horrible, dude.
Yeah, and see, like this is a really good example of like something we talked about in the pre-show. I don't remember how we worded it, but what my team does affects Brandon's relationship with his seller, and therefore his brand's reputation. Like there's kind of like a lot at not a lot at stake. That sounds so dramatic, but it's
a lot of interconnectedness.
Yeah,
every level of this is really important too. You know what I mean? And it's like, things happen. That was
that one on Penrod though. That seller, so it made Reed's team look bad too. So it was both.
Yeah.
Because the seller kept lying about what his minimum was. We beat him up, got him down, released it, and then the guy swore he couldn't do any more. But then as we kept getting buyers giving us lower prices and I kept renegotiating, he magically kept coming down. And then me and Reed had to talk, and at a certain point, it just looked bad.
It did.
We went from up here, and then finally the guy's like, I think I got him at 250 or something, 230 something. Finally the guy's like, listen, take it at 200 and I'm done. And I'm like, well, listen, motherfucker, if you would have said that like 3 weeks ago, we could have moved this thing.
Yeah. Well, and this is an interesting thing too, because there's like, you'll do certain things for certain people, right? Like, I think if it weren't Brandon Peterson's deal in the system, we probably wouldn't have held it for that long. once we've seen a couple. So this is the relationship aspect. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this is where like
We tried hard on that one.
we did,
pushed it.
but at a certain point, it's also like
Yeah.
is it worth the strain on our relationship
With the buyers.
when, or with the JV to direct the seller, you know?
Yeah.
So I think these are things that people maybe aren't like not intentionally thinking about, but you kind of learn as you go. And I think that Penrod was a great example. That was a nightmare.
Yeah.
So.
Hey, I blame a lot of it on the seller, dude. He should have just gave us the price to begin with when we were trying to beat him up. He just kept.
And some of that was tough buyers, and a good example of that too. And I think it's something that it happens now more than it used to. And these are kind of different conversations we're having where I'm going to look at a deal. I'm going to look at all the data I have in front of me. I'm going to refer to past experience, whether it's in that area, whatever variables I can kind of grab onto to identify if something's a deal. And we might put it through the system and get like kind of kicked in the nuts. We might get surprised, you know. That happened recently where I had everybody involved was like, yeah, this is a deal. Numbers came in way lower, you know. And that happens. So I think it's important too to kind of look at like I might have my opinion, my people in my office might have their opinion, even buyers, whatever. Like the market is is ultimately going to decide how much you're going to be able to get for this property right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's a little humbling sometimes because, you know, you think you know what you know. And especially when you kind of have somebody's contract in your hands, it's like, wow, this was a little bit of a surprise. So it does happen.
So John, in short, I would kind of see it like there's direct to seller marketing. That's like what all of our Investor Fuse members do. And then the JV is almost like you're marketing directly to other wholesalers or people that are sourcing discounted properties. An issue with that and something like this is like getting, you know, deals from other wholesalers, stuff like that. But could you say, or do you feel, Reed, that running a JV operation, you're kind of like spinning or perpetuating new investors coming in or newbies coming in and locking up deals at bad prices and kind of running things, you know, shooting from the hip, not effectively running a business correctly?
You're saying us running the JV department, does that encourage more bad behavior?
Yeah,
like newbies, behavior. Man, like newbies coming in.
I would argue the opposite, and I'll tell you why. It's, you know, we got someone in the office here who he's on my team now, but he used to be acquisitions. And a lot of the people he works with happen to be kind of new guys. They're finding their way in, and they hit the freaking lottery. Sorry about that phone call coming in. But
take it live.
I was not expecting that.
Cliffhanger.
Someone is going to take a live call on this call.
Yeah, let's do it, dude.
Sorry, I guess they're eager about something. But they hit the lottery with him. Yeah, no, they probably not. They hit the lottery with him because the amount of like, I want to honestly call it unpaid labor that is going on between him and a couple of his partners, like full on people who should be paying for this kind of education, right? But
exactly, though, that's exactly the point.
But I think if you're doing this JV thing and you're like, okay, so one of our things on the JV department is anytime we plug an address in ever, right? We're making two offers. We're making an offer, you know, a number that we would pick it up as a JV deal to then sell it. And then the second number is, you know, maybe they don't want a JV. So we're always going to throw out a number that we would buy it at because we are buying. We closed on 2 rentals last week. So we're picky, though. We have an in-house team that we cherry pick off of. So that number is always really low, and it maybe will piss people off. But so much of what that is an opportunity to educate. We explain. We don't just throw numbers. Every single number we offer, we tell them why. So it's like a lot of I don't really know how to describe it, but there's a lot of time on the phone explaining to people like why their deal is not a deal for us, or maybe in general. And we don't like to.
But if you weren't there to do that, wouldn't they be out of? So that's the thing, then.
I guess
it's like if you weren't there coddling them, right,
Yeah.
giving them this free education and selling their deals for them. And back in the day, we didn't have I mean, you kind of did, but you didn't really have this JV department thing.
Yeah.
And if you couldn't build your own dispo department and you couldn't
Yeah.
sell your deals, well, then you couldn't have an acquisitions department.
It's true. It's true. And I don't know that there's a way around that, but
Not
one thing,
anymore.
yeah, I mean, there's too much stuff on the internet and people just
Yeah.
pick the easy stuff and they just try to run with it. We see some like disgusting stuff happen, you know what I mean? And we probably always will, though. I don't think there's a way around that. So it's like, if we can kind of convert some of these people into like even just somewhat reputable people, the benefit is that they're gonna work with us for at least X amount of time, right? Until they do sort of have the resources to build their own team or to focus on a dispo team. Like that's a big part of why we have so many repeats, because we pour into them and we make it clear that we're not pouring into you for fun. This isn't a nonprofit,
It's not nonprofit.
It's not. And
that makes sense.
The Boys and Girls Club of real estate, trying to raise boys and girls into proper adults.
Yeah, no, there's got to be like a somewhat equal exchange of value, and like we'll continue to give value, but they're like I just told you what that deal needs to be at, so I'm gonna need to get that through the system.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we both make money,
Yeah.
So
We definitely want to hear horror stories and things not to do and how to be an ideal JV partner.
yeah,
But on the idea of like the value proposition you're bringing to the table, how are you guys breaking up, like assignment splits with these people that are coming to you?
So I will start in the past. 2 years ago when I really started, everything we did was 50-50, everything across the board. And we turned down a lot of stuff. We had a lot of people turn us down because of that, which we were okay with, because what we were trying to build was we didn't want to be like a dispo house. We didn't want to be a like dump your contract into here and hope for the best. Maybe it sells, maybe it doesn't. We don't care either way. And I know that there are some big shops that will kind of act like that.
I've encountered them.
Yeah, and if you want to work with people like that, then be my guest. If you don't necessarily care about the back end, I know there are some people that seem to not really care.
Do they do like a flat fee? They're like, I'll dispo your deal for whatever, $5,000, and they don't care.
I've seen examples of that, or they'll tell you you can get X amount of money, and you don't really know what they're marketing it at. But
Okay.
We really wanted to build this out, and like with it, relationships. We wanted it to be like an actual. Again, I think people forget like joint venture is literally what JV means. That in itself means like a partnership, and we wanted it to, in whatever way, kind of resemble like you're the front end of the contract, we're the back end of the contract. So let's be partners on this. So that's where the 50-50 came from. And we had a lot of people laugh that 50% was too much. But like we talked about in the pre-show, the real commodity is time. And if you're a small team and you can only do a few things on your own, why not outsource it? It's cheaper. You get an entire infrastructure over here to take advantage of, most of the time, including transaction coordinators and years of experience. So that was probably the biggest objection for a really long time with 50-50.
Is that changing? I'm just curious, because we're talking about how like dispo is so much harder now and requires so much processes. Are people like arguing less about that now?
No, they're not. But we have like a little bit more ground to stand on, where it's like, I'm gonna look at dispo, right? I'm gonna look at our dispo team. I'm gonna look at the pipe, and like one of the things I always say is, if you want me to take 20 or 30% of your contract when we have this much in the pipe, like and deals are this much harder to sell, that doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense for us. You know what I mean? Like,
especially if it's like a one-off dude coming to you and just saying, "Hey, yeah, I saw you on Instagram, or I came to your thing," and it's like, "Hey, dispo this deal," and you're like, "Bro, like, what are you gonna? You're one and done."
Well, so
why would you do that?
I think there's some benefit in transparency. So whenever we don't do a split, I'll have somebody come to me. Usually this has already been predetermined, or we've agreed, that this is a way that we could work together. Somebody will say, hey, I have this under contract. Can you get me 330 for it? Let's say 330. I run numbers. It looks like I could get him that much money and still make something on top. We're usually cool with that. You know what I mean? It's a lot of it is how you approach it, I think. But we're definitely, there's limitations there.
Are you leaning away from that?
When we yeah, definitely. Unless it looks like we're going to be able to absolutely make the amount of money that we think we're gonna. Because the 50-50 thing, it's funny because a lot of people on the front end think it's too much money, but I guess on the flip side, if we have to accept lower than the marketing price, it like then or more, if we get more, that needle moves both ways. You know what I mean? And quite frankly, like I know how my dispo team works. If they're seeing all of these contracts that are 50-50, like, and then one where we have like a 5K potential built in, you know what I mean? Like it's a and not that I know they look at it differently, but like I know how people are. Like I would personally look at that like, okay, I'm gonna get to that when I get
sales.
to
It's just sales, man.
Yeah, you gotta make money.
Commission.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I try to explain that a little bit, and there's a lot of people who, in the last year, it maybe took a year to kind of work them into what we're doing, and people, timing is a big thing, right? And I think with this, a lot of this was timing. So we've had some cool relationships develop otherwise, but 50-50 is still what we're trying to do, because we still want to grow partners. We want people that we're not like, I don't know, people that want to partner and they see where we're headed. They see, where they're headed. If there's any type of alignment, it's usually not a hard sell. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even like, there's like a certain character that is really hard-headed and stubborn that we have a hard time with sometimes.
Bro, I agree with you. I had one. That's why this conversation got brought up. I was at a RIA, and somebody was trying to move a deal in my home market. And I looked at it, I was like, bro, I got to buy. Like, I could sell this with one phone call. This thing will be gone. Doesn't even need a showing. I know the area. And I called the guy because he left the RIA early, and he gave a flyer out. So I grabbed a flyer. I was like, oh, call him, man. I'll help him out. And man, like, for someone who's pitching, because if you're pitching a deal at a RIA meeting, like, you've got nothing else. Like, if you've resorted to having to stand up in front of a bunch of newbies to pitch your deal, right? And I'm standing here,
you're probably not selling it.
Yeah, right. So I called this guy and I was like, hey man, like I was at the RIA and I tried to catch you, but you left early. And I was like, I'm pretty sure I could move this deal. And it was at like 129. And I was trying to go your route. I was like, listen, man, I'd love to build partnerships. Like I got buyers in my home market that I could just move a deal. One phone call, no problem. I've been selling to them for like over a decade. And he was like, okay, well, if you could sell this, he's like, build your fee on top. I was like, I don't build my fee on top. He's like, well, I'll give you $5,000. And I was like, no, man. I was like, if we're going to do this, I want to build a relationship with you. So that way, if you ever need anything in this market, I was like, I'd do 50-50 with you. And he's like, oh, I'm not doing 50-50. Yeah. So then he was like, well, if you get me list price, I'll do 70-30. And I was like, maybe, man. I mean, I could definitely figure something out. And I was like, well, what do you have it at under contract? Like, what's our room here? And he refused to tell me what he had it under contract. And to me, it doesn't feel like a partnership. We ended up, and then I go, okay, so, my guy's he was at 129. I was like, he's probably coming in just a little below. I did his numbers. I know my buyer's numbers, man. I know exactly from what it's going to be. And he says, well, if you come in below list price, I'm not giving you 70-30 split. And I was like, all right, dude. I was like, no worry. We just hung up the phone, and I was like, I'm not moving that deal for that guy. Like, I don't, I just didn't agree. What are your thoughts on that? Was I right or wrong on that?
You were absolutely right. And so this is something that it's a little bit different for you, I think, because like, again, like maybe you're not seeing as many of these possible opportunities. So it felt like maybe you want to hold on to it. But if there's friction like that on our end, like we'll push to a certain extent and we'll do what we can to sell ourselves and what we're trying to do. But like right now in this market where there's like, I have my computer up in front of me, and since I've sat down, I literally have like 40 emails, right? It's been 40 minutes. So it's like, why am I gonna spend this time fighting with you, arguing with you over
to dispo your deal?
Yeah, like to try to actually make you money. I don't like to argue with people about making them money. That's like, there's so many other people. Yeah, well, there's so many other people in this industry who like want to move forward. They want to play the game the right way, and I, quite frankly, I don't spend a lot of time with people like that. You know, I'll like bookmark it, or maybe I'll make a follow up, because truthfully, what I would do is I would hit them up in 2 weeks. Do you sell that? I would. Like,
did you sell it?
Honestly, it's a little petty, but we do that all the time with people who are really difficult. Like, hey, did you sell that? Oh, okay, yeah, you did. How much? Like, we like to press a little bit, because most of the time they don't sell it, and it's funny how I mean, I would simply call it pride, right? This industry has like a really weird
pride.
It attracts like a weird person sometimes.
Yeah.
And I think there's, for every like couple really like good solid people, there's people who are just like weird and hard-headed, and they don't want to let go of what they don't want to let go of. So I mean, we just mirror that. I call them back. They usually haven't sold it, and now the price went down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now I'm not getting you near that much. We need a price drop. So but those are good opportunities to like, I mean, like, it doesn't always have to be like dunking on them. You can call them back and be like, we could have had that sold by now. Why are you wasting all this time?
Yeah.
So again, though, like, what this keeps coming back to, and unfortunately this is just like a byproduct of what we're doing, is education. You know what I mean? Like, everything is an education opportunity. And I think if you make the time to do that, to teach people, to kind of like maybe be there for people, like, that's part of why I think we have like a pretty substantial brand. And I think the more you kind of like pour into other people, I think the word spreads, you know? So I think it's worth doing, you know, even if it doesn't make money now, it will make money later in some way. It'll all come back.
Yeah. I muted you, Carlos. Can you not find how to?
I was wondering. What
No, I have muting. I was muting and unmuting myself. But I think you have a master right to it.
Well, I can just cut people off. You cannot speak no longer.
Yeah, someone apparently is getting murdered in my neighborhood here nearby. But no, this is really, really good stuff. And I mean, there's a ton to take away here from whatever perspective you're coming from. Either if you're somebody that has deals under contract that wants to help move deals, or if you're thinking about spinning up your own JV department. I mean, there's just a ton of good stuff, and appreciate you sharing with you, Reed. I'm curious. I don't think we mentioned on the pre-show, or I don't know if we heard. How did you two get connected, Papa P and Reed?
Yeah, I remember this. We you had already been talking to Equity Cash Offer by the time I got here, and you, I think in Omar had done a deal or talked about doing a deal. I don't know how you and Omar connected, but this relationship kind of solidified a little bit, I think, when you brought that house that actually Omar now lives in. Omar bought that house and flipped it, and that's his home.
I remember that. I remember that seller. I'm still trying to buy his other couple properties, but he's being, you know, what about the price?
You gotta get that done, man. I don't know how much time that guy's got left. Seriously though, he was not. When we met him,
he sounds like he's near death every time I talk to him.
Yeah, that's follow-ups every other day.
Yeah, no, I met Donnie back at a conference in like 18 or something, and then when I opened up Texas, I just started JVing in Texas, and that's when then I got with Omar. We did a deal or two, and then I think you had just started with them at that time. And then something like that, and that was that. And then they opened up their JV department, so then I was dealing with him, or my company, my TC and stuff was dealing with him and his TC, and we just went from there. And
yeah,
well, like if you got to move a deal in Texas, Dallas and Houston, and I opened up Dallas first. We don't really do anything in Houston, but Dallas was where I opened up, and I was just like, who do I know in Dallas?
Yeah.
So I called Donnie, and I was like, hey, man, what's going on? I was like, I'm opening up Dallas. I would need someone to move my deals. Simple as that. And to me, I didn't even question the split. I think I presented 50-50 because to me, that's a partnership.
Yeah.
And that was just it. And like, I'm a stickler for terms. And for me, once I decide on something, that's that.
Yeah.
It's like, bro, like, let's do this.
Yeah. And that's, we get lucky to have people like that who understand that, like, we want to kind of move forward however long we can at the same pace and maybe at the same time. Because that's pretty valuable, It is just funny to me how, especially in this market, one side is always going to be harder than the other. So I think somebody loses a little bit with 50-50, but I think that's how it's kind of supposed to feel a little bit.
It's always a buyer's or a seller's market. It's not in the middle.
I met a guy who said it's got to be the guy was like, it's got to be 70-30 is what he said. He goes, because the seller side, you spend more money taking down a deal than you do dispoing. And of course, this was in the post-pandemic era. And he said his whole JV department, they live off of they were a big dispo, they live off of the 70-30 split because they want other people to make the more money because they're doing the marketing for the deals. I mean, everyone's got their thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I hear that a lot. Actually, I hear that quite often as an excuse kind of outside of it. But
I want you to move my deals.
Yeah.
I want to be the most important deal on your books.
Yep.
I want to call you. I want to talk to you. I want to say, so if I'm only giving you 30% of my deal and then I expect a level of service,
well,
that's
the best way to put it.
Compute.
We've done 70-30. We've done splits like that. And unfortunately, like, it is sort of a result. It's like, if I'm only getting 30% of this deal, like, you get 30% of the time back. You know what I mean? There's other people who are by default higher priority,
Yeah.
And because it would be unfair for me to spend too much time with this guy when you're the one trusting me with 50% of what we're doing,
Yeah.
At least that's how we think about it.
I agree.
Love it. For your buyer, I guess moving deals on the other side, like you said, you're on pace for an email every single minute while you've been on Let's Talk Real Estate.
No joke.
How does someone stick out when they are marketing their deals, whether it's to JV or even to end buyers? Like, how do you stick out when you're getting 40 emails a day, you're having Instagram notifications?
So this is kind of what I talked about earlier. It's like, I talk to people now that don't even look at their emails because of this. There's too much happening.
Yeah.
So like,
and we've heard that for a while. Papa P's been preaching that for a while.
Yeah, like, I mean, like, it's funny. I talked to somebody yesterday, and they were a potential buyer. I had to call them, and I asked for his email, and he was like, "Absolutely not. Text me, call me." And he was like, "I'm just telling you, I'm not going to see it. Like, I'm not going to check it. It's going to get missed." So I think about, like, we talked earlier about, like, why is dispo harder now than it was? Like, that's a great example. Like, it's
investor lift.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah.
No,
but
they
ruined
like,
it, man. Yeah, no. Seriously, it's like we sell. I think we sell most of our stuff right now, like, on the phone. Like, you gotta call people again. It's like it's like the 90s.
Bro, I am so glad to hear you say that, dude. They know I've been preaching it for years.
Yeah, and it's like it's just funny. I mean, we did get spoiled. Everybody got spoiled where we could send stuff out. Life was good. It was fun in the office. You could just send some shit out and you get an over-ask offer. It's becoming, like I said earlier, a sales position again. You gotta actually call people. You gotta know who you're selling to, right? Because there are people who are being kind of shady wholesalers too. So it's just funny, like, the amount of time for dispo to get a deal across the finish line is longer because of the time it takes to do this. Yeah. Like, real life human conversations that are organic, they take longer to have, which is cool. And that's, like, these girls on our side, on our dispo team, they've had an awesome opportunity to build, like, out of their book of business, like, kind of like a separate book of business of people that, like, now that they know really well, they know where they're going to be in a year. They know what they're buying. It's cool to get a buyer to tell you about, like, their real estate goals. It's like, I want to be a part of that.
It's more fun. That's more fun too.
Yeah. And it's like, I know your real estate goals. I know, like, where you want to be in 5 years, 10 years. And it's like, I'm going to say some stuff because I want to help you get there. And, like, little things like that, like, I would hope, like, they'd pick up the phone from us rather than someone else, or at least that's the intention.
Yeah.
So
100%.
that's kind of the long answer about sticking out. You just have to.
So basically, they need to call you if they want you to JV their deal.
Yeah, or text.
They need
call.
to skip.
Hell
Should
yeah.
they skip trace you? So you guys
Yeah,
need to
please.
go out and skip trace him,
Yeah.
find his phone number, and then there you
call
go.
Equity Cash Offer. We have a phone number on the website. It'll go to someone here. Yeah. But yeah, I think legwork is like the big key. It's like the secret sauce, which is funny that I would think the secret sauce is just working a little harder and a little bit more intentionally.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting
So-
how people have forgotten what that's like, but not that it's necessarily changed on the acquisition side, but yeah, people are like, oh shoot, I gotta do this on the disposition side. I've almost like forgot how this works.
Mhm.
Yeah, I forgot what I was gonna say there, but yeah, no, it's interesting. Yeah, that's right. I remember like 6 years ago, I'd be building systems for people for buyer management. Like that's how Papa P and I met. Like I was building him a Podio system, and he's like, "Hey, I got this acquisition system. I need the same level of intensity in my buyer system."
Yeah, hell yeah.
And that just dropped off. Like nobody cared after a couple of years, like to have that level. It's gonna be a really
And Investor Lift doesn't do shit for it. The only thing they have is you put your active buyers, you email blast them. They have no relationship building. They have no nothing. He's he doesn't want to say anything. He's like, oh shit, I don't want to fuck this up.
No, who's listening on this podcast? No, I actually like Investor Lift, and I think I've met those guys a handful of times at the events that we always sponsor, but it's crazy to see in the last year I don't think we sell as much on it. Like we have the whole thing, and I hear everybody kind of in like my local sort of network talking about like I don't know what I'm doing wrong, like nothing's selling, and they're favoring like that's like their primary marketing.
Just email blasting, bro. I don't know. It's like a cockroach because I delete them and I spam them, and it's like they make a new company name. And they pop up, and I get a fucking like, bro. How many fucking dispo names does this company have? Because I'm getting I was like, spam it. Do not want. And then tomorrow it's like a new company.
Yeah, it was like the same. Yeah, no.
I don't fucking know. It's like I'm getting hunted.
Yeah, Equity Cash Offered, something like that. Send you an email.
You guys are switching one initial, putting an underscore, sending me the same deal.
These guys are crazy. No, it's I don't know. It's cool. I think it's expensive, and I think some people are continuing to make a lot of money with it, which is awesome. And I think more power to them. I just think we began. Yeah, and we began to see it kind of trail downward in what we were selling, and just like the general, I don't know, it seemed like maybe we can't rely on it. So like we spend a lot of time training, we spend a lot of time team building, and it just at the end of the day makes more sense to rely on the team, right? And so that's what we that's kind of what we do now. I guess sounds funny to come off of systems like that, but I don't know. I don't think you can have programs like that built too close into your systems, and then you can't change whenever you have to. So, I think we're seeing a lot of people struggle with that.
In a time of chat GPT and all this tech and AI and stuff going on, it's a little bit refreshing. That's still like the human to human interaction is something that's going to make the rubber meet the road as far as like qualitative relationship building. I'm a huge fan of like compound effects, like any relationship that you're able to really nail and have fun with, building rapport with somebody that you can do repeat business with is very inspiring and awesome to hear and see.
This podcast is a perfect example of it. I met somebody at a conference that introduced me to John. Through John, I met Carlos. Now we're doing this. I met somebody at a conference named Donnie. Through Donnie, I met Omar. Through Omar, I met Reed. And now he's on the podcast. I mean, it's all relationships and years worth of relationships too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, especially with you and John, for example, that's nuts. It's cool how it all compounds. Yeah.
Carlos is right. Like compound, right? Like that's, and it's not just like us, but you're right with the buyers too. It's like, and you'll keep those same buyers with what you guys are doing, trying to figure out their goals. And so you try to attain their goals, and you don't want your. I was talking to a guy who lost. He told me He was like, Brandon, out of all the years, I finally lost money on one of the deals you sold me. And I was actually I was pissed. He wasn't mad at me. He was like, man, it happens. The market's declining, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, it's just one deal. But to me, I was like, I don't want that to fucking happen.
Yeah, like you failed.
Like I failed. We made a good rip on it.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm happy I made money, but it pisses me off that he lost money because I want him to succeed because the more
on
he
your
does,
product too. Yeah.
it's my product. Yeah,
Yep.
I dig that too. On my
Mhm.
product.
Because it's true, and I think again, there's Brandon and I talked about this the other day, where and this is why I think you are, you know, currently successful and will continue to be, because you view it like that. This is a product. This is like, there's a real life person on the front end of this, and I think a lot of our like class of 2020 people who really just started without a lot of
Yeah.
like real help, and like without a lot of people like really making sure that what they're doing is correct.
Right.
I think there's like a massive discrepancy in people who like are looking at this piece of paper as somebody's livelihood, because it is on like 5 different fronts at the end of the day. And you know, I forget where we were going with it the other day, Brandon, but like at the end of the day, we're trying to provide a solution for a seller who like more than likely really needs this money because of something in their life, you know?
Yeah.
And it's on the JV side, when you're not talking to the seller, it's really easy to just be like, well, on to the next. Yeah.
But it's that relationship that I feel that you want to do it for me, I want to do it for the seller, and at the same time, the dispo wants to do it for the buyer.
Yep.
And when you bring all those pieces together, but if you it's good, but if you disconnect any one of them, it falls apart, man. And that's why I think 50-50 is very important. And I think when you start getting greedy with it, and I am not, I know you'll do it. I'm just not a proponent of tell me what you want to sell, and if I can make money on top, I'll do it.
Yeah.
I'm leaving money off the table. But to me, it's all, I don't know, man.
Yeah. Well, and that's a big part of it too. Cause like, if, you know, 50-50 is obviously 90% of what we're going to be trying, maybe even more, but like a big thing is like, if something in the deal is prohibiting it from being a 50-50 split, cause there will be circumstances where maybe it just can't be, whatever. And maybe that's not something we need to go too into, but like if I'm telling you that I can sell that, it's because like I genuinely think that we could probably perform on that. I'm not gonna waste my time, my dispo time, the buyer's time, and at the end of the day, the seller's time, because it's like what you're doing. You know what I mean?
They're sitting there waiting for that money.
Yeah, well, and they like most of the time they probably need it, and we kind of have. I think there's like probably a careful way to say this. Like, there's a couple people in our kind of local network or even national, because like we're not just in Texas. There's other big shops that we look at in other states or other markets or whatever. And we joke that like we'll see a deal, maybe first thing in the morning, somebody on the team will see a deal or an email with a property in it, and it'll come into our email that day from like 4 or 5 other people. You know what I mean? And there's like a couple of these companies where I'm like, once it hits their email, I'm like, oh, this thing is dead. like it's almost like I'm watching this property go through this like weird little daisy chain, and I'm like, once it hits a couple of these companies, I'm like, oh yeah.
It keeps going like. I've seen, and I've watched, like, it's wild. I've watched arguments from these companies on, like, Facebook, you know, where you watch the person who is daisy chaining argue about their ethics and value and why they're so important to the people bitching that they have their deal. And it's like, I don't agree with that.
In the state of Texas, I've actually never fact checked this. I've never even thought to look, because it doesn't matter, in my opinion. When I started this, I think maybe Omar or me or even Don had this idea that I think it was like illegal to market the equitable interest in a property if you don't have it under contract. Like you like literally couldn't. So for a really long time, I don't know if we were just saying that to people or if we were like, if it was like an actual thing that we were trying to adhere to. I never looked it up because it doesn't matter. Like, and I think it doesn't matter.
But it kind of does matter.
Well, it matters on the other side, but like from our side, it doesn't matter because it's like, it's a really good rule of thumb, like bare minimum rule of thumb. You probably should have something under contract if you're going to be marketing it. you know.
Bro,
So
I got blamed once by the guy daisy chaining it. We called him out on it because he pretended he was a buyer on Facebook. And then we sent it, and then we saw the deal get shot back to us via email. We reached out to him, and he said, and he blamed us. He gaslighted us and said, well, that's your fault. You should have done a better job fact-checking or checking your buyer.
You should have vetted me.
It's not my fault you gave it to me so I could daisy chain it. And I was like, I was mind blown. He flipped us.
My man,
bro.
You got a point. Yeah. As a matter of fact, you got a point. Yeah. Carry on.
How did this turn around on me?
Yeah. I think that I think another thing I'll say too, because this hasn't come up yet in this conversation yet. The difference between JVing and daisy chaining, I think, and I see a lot of people say that what we're doing is daisy chaining, which I guess in some sense we are literally connecting links of the whatever, but we're under contract on every single deal. Like, we don't ever touch or put a deal into the system that is not like under contract with our assignment, and our contract is an assignment, and we have you've seen it, Brandon. The special provisions is what kind of details our option period. We do an exclusive option period. That's another huge objection I get from people, like, still to this day. Which, not to get too off topic, but the reason is we have X amount of deals in the pipe. Imagine my dispo agent is about to sell this deal. They spent maybe 2 days on it. They got this buyer on the line. They're about to sell this deal, and then we learn that it's already been sold. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not, one, that's not good business for anyone. Two, it's like a total waste of resources, and we don't want to be doing that.
So let's break this down for people who maybe have never JV'd before.
Yeah.
Like I'm whatever. So I bring a deal to you guys, and does that mean that the person who got the original contract, cannot market that property? We're leaving it up entirely to you to market?
Sorry about that.
Okay.
Yeah. So if we have a and I say leaving it up to you because I had a conversation with someone literally yesterday, and he was like, am I able to find like my own buyers while you guys are doing this? And like, technically, yeah, you can, but we're under contract. We have the first right of refusal. So I don't know why you would spend any amount of time if you've just agreed to let my team try to sell it. Like, I don't know why you would do that. You know what I mean? Like, let us do our thing and go back to making money, go back to calling people, go back to getting deals. I think a lot of people try to use companies like us to sort of like cast a net. Yeah. And that's not what this is. You know what I mean? I think if you're going to be outsourcing your properties to be sold by another company who at this point, honestly really kind of specializes it, you should just get back on the phone. Use that time. Like, you're buying time. That's like the
get another
sort
deal.
of like the yeah, go get another deal. Like, the amount of transactions you're going to be able to fit into your month when you're not doing both ends of it is if you do it right, it's probably going to double. Or at least you'll have a couple more.
Well, you missed the point though. Is it's not just me JVing with you, and then me trying to find a buyer. It's me JVing with you, JVing with John, JVing with Carlos, putting 3 people to work for me. Next thing you know, like that's not good. Like, that's
so the exposure aspect,
it's backfired.
I mean, honestly, like it does. It's like, if I'm seeing the same deal from 5 different people all within like maybe a day of marketing, I don't even want to mess with it. I don't know who is under contract. I don't know who actually originated the contract, and I don't want to go find out. Like, I think again, it's like we're in a market where it's harder to sell a deal to begin with. So it's like, if you're a buyer or an investor who is looking at like the deal flow that they have available to them, I would think, and it's maybe this is too broad, but I would think that if I had to really put in like a ton of work to possibly get that deal under contract, I'm gonna move on. There's a ton of deals out there. I'm gonna move on to the next one, and that's where maybe a relationship might come in. And again, that's very broad. I wouldn't necessarily say that applies for every situation, but that's how I try to think of it on at least like the side that I'm on. right? If I know that you've seen this deal in the last week by multiple other people, we're probably already going to walk into a difficult selling situation. Because why is it still for sale?
Yeah.
Like no
So,
one could do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. How do you vet a
Good.
JV partner that comes to you? Do you do that? Do you go like look into this kind of stuff so that you make sure that you're bringing in the right kind of deals?
Yeah, I mean a little bit. I think there's some easy questions, easy qualifying questions. Like I think one of the first things I ask, if I haven't already seen the contract, I just ask like, have you marketed this? If yes, kind of like where? Like what does your marketing look like so far? Because that's going to determine, what we're kind of able to do with it, right? If you've been marketing this deal for a month, which is already too long. I laughed at your Instagram story, Brandon, the other day.
My story yesterday.
Like set them free, man. It's like if you've been marketing this for a month and you haven't sold it, there's obviously a reason why, and I'm gonna assume that it's too much money. So it's like that doesn't disqualify us from working with it, but we're immediately gonna need to be like significantly lower than what you last marketed at. There's got to be we can't. We're not. I don't know. I'm not gonna spend the amount of time doing what you've been doing for a month. Because you've already identified that there's a problem, right? But I think other qualifying questions is like, I just try to get a read on them. You know what I mean? I try to figure out like in that first couple of minutes, if I've never talked to them, kind of sound dumb. I can't believe I'm using this word. I honestly try to pick up a vibe over the phone. If I'm getting a good vibe and there's no red flags from some of the simple questions I'm asking, I don't have a lot to worry about.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, we do that in software sales. Like, you get on a call with a demo,
right?
Immediately, you're able to vibe check them. How's this gonna go?
Exactly. Yeah, this is gonna be a hard call, or it's gonna be like a relatively easy call. Yeah. So
and then,
I don't know. I think that's a simple. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I mean, we're getting to like 106 in time here, and I want to make sure that we cover some of the things I was really interested in knowing, and like making sure that our audience could understand is like what makes a good JV partner, what makes a bad JV partner, like, so that if somebody listening is like, I want to call Equity Crash Offer, like not that they need to pretend to be something, but it's like, what is it that like you're like Brandin, right? If Brandin calls, you're gonna pick up his phone call every time because you know that he's coming to you with something that you want.
Well, I'll start with, since we have Brandin here, I'm going to start with what makes a good JV partner, and I think Brandin is a great example of one. And I think the key thing is transparency, and that's why we've enjoyed working with Brandin. There's not really like a lot of room for bullshit, I guess, when working with somebody like Brandin. But which is a good thing. Like we're trying to just get to the money. So it's like, let's just get to the money. There doesn't have to be any fluff, which I think is good. But I think the key component there is transparency. I want to work with someone who I can trust. And I mean, at least for me, I feel like I can kind of, early on in a scenario where I'm talking to someone, I can tell if I'm gonna be able to trust them. And like when Brandin brings a deal, because we're on the same page with like, okay, 50-50, here's why, here's the expectations. It usually allows for like a pretty seamless, I think, A to B to C kind of.
I straight up tell him. I don't bullshit. I'm just like, yo, here's my contract, here's my close date, like here's what we got it at. Boom, it's a piece of shit or this or that. Like here's the thing we got to deal with.
Very straightforward.
Can you move it?
Yeah.
Yes or no?
Yeah.
Sometimes I fuck around with
yes
them.
or no,
and I'm like, bro, how come you haven't sold it already? Like I texted you 10 minutes ago. Like,
right.
What the fuck,
dude? Yeah. No, but I think maybe this is too simple of an answer, but I think a bad JV partner or a bad JV like potential is going to be the exact opposite. Like if you're starting the conversation and you're trying to be, I think like you're trying to conceal too much. I think that there's going to be like situations or there's going to be deals where, maybe you don't want to like, I don't know you, right? Maybe you don't want to tell me everything right at the gate. And like, we probably do the same thing, But I think there's got to be some sort of like initial understanding of like, I want to partner with your team to make money on this contract. And if, in my opinion, if there's a lot of friction and kind of unwillingness to, even if you don't like the terms, right? I think a bad JV partner, if you're reaching out to me and you're trying to dictate terms that are just simply not going to work kind of with the systems that, and I don't want to say policies, but like the thing that we're doing over here, that happens, right? There's, black and white, but if you're not going to be willing to at least try to make a deal happen, I think I don't necessarily probably want to work with you that bad. There's again a million other properties I could go spend my time trying to bring in to what we're doing. So, and I mean, it's a little different if I'm calling you and I'm trying to get your deal under contract and I'm trying to sell you on the ECO process. Like that's a little bit of a different story because you don't know me and you don't know why you should trust me with 50% of the process. So
you do go shop deals.
That's
you do go shop deals as a team. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, or what I mean is that we'll pursue other wholesalers who maybe I've never met before and try to sell them on what we're doing. Like, I want your business. I want your contracts. But that's on me. And that's where I try to be the good JV person, right? But yeah, if you're
by you being transparent. Yeah.
And I'll even drop that word in there. I had a really awesome, it was a cold call yesterday with a woman out of Florida, and it turned into like a 35-minute conversation just about like, it started off even a little awkward. We didn't know each other, didn't really know what to talk about, and it turned into like this really cool sort of like, man, I just got off the phone, spent half an hour, and like, I guarantee you that we're going to make money together this year, and we connected on some key things. Maybe like pillars of what we're doing. We're like, okay, we identified that we want similar things, we're after the same thing, so why wouldn't we work together? So I bring that up because of like the transparency aspect. Like I just told you in less than half an hour, like we talked about random stuff for 20 minutes. Like I told you in 10 minutes exactly what we do. You now know our business model, and there's like not going to be any hesitation when you call me back with a contract. So
what's it like when it goes bad?
And it does go bad. But here's the deal. When it goes bad, like there's a couple of things. So I think if we've been upfront, we've been transparent, we've leveled expectations, because I do try to level expectations when I'm, deciding to put someone in a contract. It doesn't go bad that often. The deal might go bad, but that doesn't happen that often. And if it does, it's not usually something that someone on the team did. And I don't know. I think if you've done a really good job with the relationship, there's nothing that is going to happen in this chain of sort of process that is going to sour a relationship. You know what I mean? I think there's definitely, we've had some mishaps where, certain aspects of the team have slipped up, or, maybe things didn't go as expected. But that's just business. You know what I mean? And that's where a big part of that is expectations and that transparency that I keep talking about. And like, we're on the same team. If you know that we're on the same team, and I know that we're on the same team, like, we're kind of going to have to like go at this issue together. So
I mean, we've talked about how the market. Oh, sorry, real quick. I know we talked about like how the market's been really good, and something that we've talked a lot, the three of us on this podcast, is like we've noticed a lot of people have entered the market that may not have the best intentions, or like wanting, and two, like not having a lasting business, right? Like Brandin talks about like the overhead I have, so when I'm going and chasing a deal, like I need to make sure that this deal fits what my business needs. And somebody who's like, working out of their parents' basement, and a grand works great for them. Have you guys had to change any of your processes or because of encountering people like this I mean, I'm hoping they're kind of going to disappear as the market goes down a little bit, but have you had to change anything to kind of handle those situations?
No, not really. I mean, not like I kind of look at it like we're a little bit of like a big ship now, and a much bigger ship than we were 2 years ago. So I think it's a lot harder to change kind of like a big ship than it is like a small ship. So like these smaller teams or individuals who are doing the same thing we're doing, but have different expectations, really about what I guess is what we're talking about here. We try to work them into what we're doing, or sort of around what we're doing, and I don't think that's ever really been an issue, other than people just doing dumb stuff. I don't think from a financial, when you're splitting the assignment fee, that problem doesn't really come up that often.
Yeah.
I don't know if that answered that or not.
No, it does. Yeah, it does. It comes down to the expectations, and I think you guys have built the right business model to kind of naturally weed that out.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, or build it in. Like I said, there's a lot of education opportunities here to, make someone like that who might not maybe exactly be compatible with what we're doing into someone who kind of does fit, our model, and maybe bring them a little bit closer to what we're trying to do.
Yeah. Sure.
Good
Carlos,
stuff. A lot of
you
it
have
comes
more
down to
questions?
transparent. Well, I was just going to say a lot of it just comes down to transparency. I don't have any other questions, but that's kind of what's come up and thought for me. Like, so much stuff can be simplified in life and business just with transparency, talking it out, having conversations.
I have a
Cool.
question.
It's crazy because, yeah.
Well, I just wanted to touch on him, and maybe I'm cheating because I already kind of know the answer.
Nah.
But we talked about horror stories, but can you fill us in? Have you guys had people try to snag your end buyers from you? People you've partnered with? Have you explain that, or what you've done to deal with that, or what someone could look out for? Like, explain that a little bit, because that's something, right?
Yeah,
There's
well,
that
so
transparency and that trust, right? How do you get
no,
over
this
that?
is. And this was a speed bump actually with our company and Brandon's company. Now I'm glad you brought this up because I had kind of forgotten about this. We double close on like everything now, and the double closing, honestly, it is good, but it's also not ideal. Like it adds an expense to the transaction. But
Dumb real estate
at the end of
question.
the
Why do
day,
you have to double close, and what does that do?
so normally on like a regular assignment, you can see on the HUDs like who's been involved in the transaction. So let's say I'm working with someone as a JV partner. Maybe I like them, but they're in business to make money. Like I don't necessarily fault anyone for this. I just think like if there's information available to you for free and it's in your email, you're probably just at least going to look at it. Let's say we have a deal, right? We sell it. It's a regular single close, like it's an assignment. Our JV partner just got that buyer's contact. So when you've got a market like this, where buyers are really valuable, and the buyers list that we're building are super valuable, and the amount of time, like we talked earlier about Dispo building a relationship with this person, not that it makes it proprietary, but it's like we want to minimize the competition. So you're going to close 2 times, which means you're going to incur a second set of closing costs, which depends on the deal, depends on the numbers, how much that will end up being. But we want to try to maintain. That's like we look at that now as like in-house. This is like in-house information that we want to try to maintain, so that we can try to preserve the work that's been done to get that buyer to that level where we can sell it to them.
And it's not even necessarily that you're trying to prevent that person who brought the deal from dispoing their own deals in the future. It's more a case of that buyer may not work with you guys again if they're like, geez, every time I sell a deal to you guys, somebody starts calling me right afterwards.
Yeah, and that's actually a good point. And I think that I think that there's even some more things that we'd want to try to avoid. So it's just kind of like a simple thing. We kind of implemented this at some point this year where we're like, you know what, this has happened too many times. We're getting snaked. Weird things are happening. So we're just going to start double closing. And at this point, it's not really an issue. I think everybody is pretty cool with it. A lot of the buyers, we're not the only company doing it now. A lot of buyers are used to it. If we need to, we'll just take the couple grand off the fee. It's a lot harder now.
It costs you guys more to
size.
do that.
If the buyer doesn't pay for both sides, then yeah, we'll have to
Who
handle
eats
one
that?
of the sides.
Who eats that?
If the buyer doesn't assume both sets of closing costs, that's a conversation we have with our JV partner. Because a lot of times, what we want to do is, I mean, we've talked about splitting it. There's a couple of people that we split it with all the time, but at the end of the day, I would think our expense, and we are protecting our buyer. So it's a little bit situational at this point. I would probably have to go and look kind of in the back end and see, situations where we have split it. So, but this is a good question, because this was actually a roadblock that Brandon's company and our company had, where Brandon was like, "You guys, I'm literally giving you all our Texas stuff. Like, why is this something that is a problem to you?" And again, that's like why you got to talk to people, because it's like, whoa, shit, you don't trust me. You know what I mean? It's like,
well, I was like, I'm giving you all my seller info. Like, you have you have my seller's name, you have all that. And to me, it was just, but I get it. But at the same time, I'm pretty sure I said the exact words of, "Bro, I don't give a fuck who your buyers are. Like, I got enough shit going on in my life. I got enough shit going on in my life. I ain't hunting down your buyers, bro." But not everybody, like, not everyone's like that. Like, somebody may say that and then snake them and go behind their back. It's just, I think it comes down to reputation, right? Like, I think he knows me well enough to know when I say it, I mean it. And I've never had to do that. I have no need. I have more benefit from him selling my deals and me doing all the other shit that I do than me trying to steal one buyer,
right,
to sell a deal. I don't get it. I don't get it.
We would have to sell a lot of deals together for you to make a substantial buyers list off of it.
I know. I get like one couple like what, dude?
Well, but so like that's a good example too of like growing pains. You know what I mean? Where like there are kind of blanket things that come over the whole operation, and then you begin to poke holes where you're able to, or where you see fit. But I think as a general rule, that's kind of something that we do still do on that side. But we additionally, I think on the buyers being stolen, that was happening a lot on showings. We were having some weird stuff happen. But like now we don't, if we're marketing a property on Facebook or email, we don't include the full property address. So then what we do is when someone inquires, now you're on the list. So we know every single person that has inquired about this property. So should anything go south, we have a list of people rather than our thousands of people that it marketed to on the internet.
Listen, so that's important. Well, no, I was just going to say that's important. Had I have lied to Reed and said, "Hey, tell me who your buyers are. I'm not going to steal them." Then I go steal them, and it's happened to me, right? First thing that buyer does is call Reed. "Hey, man, you remember that blah blah blah? Well, this guy called me." Now Reed knows I'm that type of guy. Now he's going to tell everyone he knows. And the industry's small. Why are you risking your reputation, right? And as a buyer, right? I'm a wholesaler. I'm an investor. But as a buyer, going to a showing, snagging a set and doing, you know what they do. Mr. Seller, did you know that these people are wholesaling it? And they're trying to sell it to me? I'll buy it. Yeah. Blacklisted, and now you start telling everybody, but like, bro, don't sell to this guy. But they risk it, man, for that one deal. They risk it all.
Yeah, we saw that a lot, like this summer, and it was like we were like, man, people are desperate. That's what that means. Like, people are out here desperate.
Yeah.
And I think that happens every time there's big changes in probably any industry, but definitely this one. But yeah, that definitely still happens. We have a lot of measures to make sure we're able to mitigate that as much as we're able to.
You have runners go out to your showings?
Almost every time we'll have somebody. We've got a small little Rolodex of people that we pay $100. They're people not in the office, because we're in the office doing what we need to do in here. But people that my brother's a musician. Yeah, my brother's a musician. We pay him $100 to go and make sure he keeps his seller busy.
Plays the open houses.
He plays. It's added ambiance.
That would be hilarious. Yeah,
showing
like a narration.
Show. Yeah,
that'd be hilarious.
He puts the entire thing to
Don't
song,
steal that.
and he does it like a musical.
Yeah, don't steal that. No, but
I'm gonna start doing
yeah,
it. And I'm
that
gonna
that kind
sell
of
a
stuff.
course on how to do it.
Yeah. Oh God, no more courses. No, but we yeah, that's just some small things that we do to try to make sure that we're protecting, and it protects our buyers, protects our sellers, and make sure everyone is able to continue doing what they're doing, and there's no weirdness.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That's
Love
interesting
that.
though. But it's never the big buyers. It's never the big buyers, right? It's not your VIPs that are doing that to you.
No.
absolutely not. Our VIPs, I actually probably like they don't. I mean, the really good buyers don't give a shit what you have it at. They're just concerned about buying the deal and doing what they plan to do with it. It's those guys who get desperate. The big buyers aren't desperate. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're the big buyers because they're good at what they do.
How
Yeah.
about when you guys JV deals, man? Like, what's your ratio of like selling sight unseen? Do you get a lot of that still? I know we had a lot of it before,
No,
but like, no.
not. I mean, I don't want to say not at all because it still does happen. But like for example, actually at noon, so half an hour ago, we have a showing, and we had 2 sight unseen offers at full ask, but we had like 4 other people confirmed for the showing. So it's like that's cool that people are like. I say that because we for a while weren't getting any offers sight unseen. It was like we weren't really selling anything without a showing, and maybe people are feeling I don't know brave again or whatever. But if we've still got more people confirmed for the showing and we've got 2 ask sight unseen offers, like we're gonna have to show them because I'm gonna bet that there might be something over asked there. But a big part of that now is pricing right. You know what I mean? Like, we're this is a little bit off topic, but like we're able to get better interest by pricing stuff a little bit more conservatively. We we got really greedy for a while. I think everyone did. Adding X amount of money to the we could probably get this much. You know what I mean? Like, and it would still go over ask, right?
Shoot your shot, bro.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I remember we
But,
were
like-
talking about that. Yeah, you'd be like, yeah, that house down there, I'm gonna do 10K more. Why not? See what happens.
Yeah, run it. Yeah, just tack it on. But now it's like again, there's so many deals that are most of the deals that are tight because people are just contracting stuff, right? So it's like if I can make a deal look attractive, and the people who are buying know their numbers, they can look at our ARV, they can look at our asking price, and quickly look at the condition, and it'll at least be in their ballpark, right? Before they need to spend any more time looking at it. So if we can put something out and market it like, make it look juicy, we're gonna get way more people looking at it, and we're gonna look like a better company. We're gonna look like the more reputable brand because we're selling good deals. And for a while, like, bro, in the beginning of Q4, we actually we had a huge conversation, and there were a couple JV partners of mine that I had to like really sell on this because our value for so long was that we're going to max this out for you, right? And we still will, but we need to be realistic about what is maxing out now, right? It's not what it was. We're not going to max out a deal 20K higher every time. It's just not where we're at. So, like, if we can price a deal to get 5 people, 10 people actually genuinely interested in purchasing it, that's where we're going to have a good shot at maxing it out. So really beginning of Q4, we were like, we're just going to start putting shit out like at real good numbers. We're going to leave a little bit on the bone and we're going to start selling stuff to people and we're going to take a hit now. And we're going to be the only company that is selling.
You know what that's
stuff
called? You know what that's called? Sales.
Tell me.
Fucking sales. Sales, bro. It's sales. Psychological
Yeah.
sales. You're doing your job. You're giving them a little taste. You're telling them, look at this juicy thing that I'm giving you. People get excited versus just slapping a high number on it, trying to get lucky. You guys are going back to sales.
You missed let's say you missed the deal. Like, guess what? You got another opportunity. Now equity cash offer when it comes in your inbox is probably worth clicking on because it might be a little bit less than the other guys. We had a couple guys. One of like my probably top guys that I work with. He's out of California, but they're pretty big in Texas now. He had a deal that honestly was like a little weird. The deal wasn't weird, but the comps were weird. It could have gone one of those that it could have gone either way. Really, probably up to maybe the buyer perspective because It just was like a little bit not like apples to apples. It wasn't clear cut. So we put it out at market or at contract price. We're like, we know this is already high. We already got like kind of like a pre-commitment from the seller that they're going to be able to kind of work with us on this price. And yeah, we put it out at contract price, and that one did pretty well. And we got a nice drop on it too. Seller still did okay, and
Everybody won.
Yeah,
we all won.
Yeah,
I think it's
so
important too. Like,
obviously,
I was gonna say, acquisitions people have to get the right offer price. Like, that's the key. Like, you guys are having to sell it to make it look juicy. You can't do that if the acquisitions people aren't having the right conversations, setting the right expectations, and pricing the right way in the market that we are, which we've been talking
100%.
about in this podcast. But like, it's interesting to see that like transfer into the dispo sales world. That you're like, we have to attract the eyeballs, and there's only one way to do that right now, and it's the price.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I don't know. It'd be cool to see a lot of people doing that. We're buying rentals right now, and we're offering really low because we need to be able to cash flow. And we have like a nice little calculator. It's a great calculator. Don put it together. You put all your stuff in, and it tells us what number we need it at. And we'll screenshot it. We'll send it to people. And it's funny how like we look at it on our side. It's like if we get a number, like a real number from a real buyer, we're probably gonna make it happen. We get a lot of people laughing at our offers these days. Too low, I guess. I don't know what about that is ever funny, but we do get a couple good chuckles at it sometimes. But it's just funny, the idea. It's like you can work with what you have. You can keep shopping a deal for a month, or you can get like actual offers and try to make them work. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would go back a little bit and not disagree with you, but say that you're only making offers that they're laughing at because these people haven't been trained yet to understand that they haven't readjusted their acquisition offering strategy, which we have to go back to 2017-18 style of numbers and calculations. They're not doing that yet, and any offer you give, which is they're laughing at, but is the realistic number. And if they trained, their team on how to make offers. I was telling a story on another podcast. I got beat out on this podcast, another episode. I got beat out. I had the lady down, and somebody beat me by $40K, and she jumped on it, and she ended up selling it to them. But it's like, man, like imagine if you were the boss of that company finding out that another guy had her $40K below, and the only reason why you got it is because your acquisition team offered an extra 40 G's because they don't know how to anchor. I lost the deal, but bro, like.
Yeah,
you're losing
they lost the spread.
I mean, that's and they're probably not going to sell it. I mean, maybe they will. But
no, they ended up selling it. Who knows how much they made? But still, it's like, dude, like your job to the seller is to make the lowest offer possible without getting hung up on. That's it.
Yeah.
If you're not getting hung up on a few calls, you're not making good enough offers. You're not making the right type of low anchor offers, and that's what you and Donnie and your whole team's doing. Yeah. If you're not getting laughed at, bro, you're just buying bad deals. You need a good amount of laughs to balance it out.
Well, and it's funny, a lot of these came back. We had 2 deals that we actually bought, and they did end up being like, oh, okay, so you are going to be able to accept this offer that I made 2 weeks ago. Yeah, it's funny. It's funny, but that's why I fucking screenshot our calculator. I'm like
here's my numbers,
if you can tell me that this is going to cash flow at your number, I need to see how. Because my number says it. Like,
no, that's because they're leaving out all the expenses, bro. They're leaving out all the expenses. Yeah.
No, it's only 10K rehab. 10K.
Yeah,
okay.
they're not
Find me your
counting
contract
vacancy or holding periods. Yeah, I know, right? They don't calculate insurance. They're not doing shit. They're just like, here it is, dude.
Yeah.
It's the best ever.
Yeah. Yeah, it's 80%. What do you mean? It's 85%.
Come on, dude.
God.
No, that's good, man. This is good. This is good.
Really
this
good
was
stuff.
a lot of good information, dude.
Yeah.
It does. It was.
Yeah, I'm glad. And I think that there's a lot of opportunity for, I feel like every single level of business, small, maybe medium, a little bit bigger, maybe like our size, and then even the big shops to like really figure out this JV thing and figure out how to be better at it. Because I think there's, there's a lot of opportunities to add like a lot of dollars to your company by doing it the right way.
Before we get off this app, dude, like I know we're running into our 2-hour mark here, but can you tell people like about your training and like how do they
That
go
was
sign up?
exactly how
Like,
I was going to end this.
I beat
Pitch
you, bro.
yourself, Reed. Pitch yourself.
I'm well, not
Wait.
even that yet. Like, not even the JV thing right now. I'm more curious about the training because
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You've mentioned a couple times, and I'm sure
Like-
our listeners are intrigued about what that is and what they can learn.
Maybe John can pop it
Like
on
my
the screen
training
if you got
from-
like a link. Yeah. No, like
Yeah, from
you can-
like day one.
No. What you said that you bring people in your office and train them on how to do things. Like, where can somebody go to sign up
yeah.
for equity cash offer stuff, dude?
So we've actually got a guy, and I don't have it. Anything to actually put up, but we brought in a guy to do all of our education sales. So
Okay.
his name is Dale. He's a boss. He just booked out our January No Limit. It's called No Limit REI.
No limit REI.
We were gonna maybe not do February and March because we've got a huge April conference coming, which is going to be a lot of fun. That'll be here in Dallas. But we have a lot of people that missed toward the end of the year. So I think we might do a February. I think we should. I'll connect with maybe you again afterwards if we confirm a February date. But basically you come in, that's awesome. You come in, it's classroom setting, it's 2 days. And, day one is Donovan kind of runs through our operation. Everybody kind of shares what they do, what their goals are. The premise of this is to scale, right? That's something that I think Donovan is, in the past few years has done very, very well, is he's really good at team building. And, obviously we are a good example of that. And, the No Limit, the goal is to teach other people how to do that and do what he did. So it's pretty cool. He opens the books. He kind of shares a lot of behind the scenes stuff about, a lot of stuff that most companies are afraid to share. He goes into numbers and some of the harder stuff to talk about. And then day two, it's, more classroom setting. And then we have like a little panel of all of our department heads. And we basically just like talk. We've got our Dispo team. They are available to be able to talk about, how do they do what they do? Same for JV and acquisitions, actually, and transaction coordination. So we want anyone who's going to be at that, classroom setting to leave with like a couple extra tools in their, on their belt. So scaling is why we all do this. I know not everybody wants to build their operation maybe to this size or to bigger, but there's still things that you can learn, I think, about the industry and about like how to grow what you currently have. I'm maybe biased, but I think you probably should want to scale it, get your time back. That's something that Don preaches quite often, and he is a great example of it. He spent a lot of time building this, and in exchange, he has a lot of time back, I think most people should probably share that goal. That's why all of our department heads, all of our, other managers on the floor, that's our goal too. So I'm going to see if we're going to have a February one. If I can usually see Dale from here, but he's not at his desk right now. That's kind of the...
We should let the audience decide. Is there a link here that they go? Let's talk. Go click that, and people can sign up. See if you have a meeting with. What'd you say? His name is Dale. Boom. There you go, guys.
Yeah, Dale Tonneson.
That's who you got to connect with.
Yeah. If there's a phone number on that, call him if you're interested and blow him up, because we definitely, I think, have the capability to add a couple more of these before our April conference. I mean, I think so. Maybe Don's gonna hear that and say no.
How do we reach out to you to JV a deal, bro?
I wish I would have made a little graphic. I should have done that, but I can either take down or I can say my phone number or email. My email is really easy. It's reed@equitycashoffer.com. I do keep my email up in front of me quite often, but phone number is the best way to reach me. Facebook is also good. I can't believe I use Facebook as much as I do in this day to day. I never thought I would be doing that, but I use Facebook a lot. But yeah, I don't know if there's a way to put up. I should have thought about that. Oh, that's perfect right there. My phone. Yeah, can you put my phone number down too?
Yeah. Let's
Yeah,
go.
972. I'll read it out.
Huh?
972 762 4049.
All right.
Call me, text me, whatever you got to do. And we're also, for anyone listening, for anybody listening, we've talked a lot about Texas, but Texas at this point is just probably our number one market. It's definitely not the only market that we operate in. So reach out if you got something. We'll talk about it and see if we can, make it happen.
Boom.
Cool. Love it.
So
I love
Awesome.
It. This was
Super appreciate you coming on and giving us some ins and outs. It's interesting that we spend a lot of time talking about acquisitions a lot and dispositions as well, but JV is a thing that everybody's familiar with, but we've never really dived into on the show. So
yeah,
that was a lot of fun.
And I think
learning
as we move forward, it's going to be a little bit more in everyone's face, just inevitably. Yes. So people are trying to get more money this way. So. I appreciate you guys having me. This is a lot of fun.
Was, dude.
Yeah.
It was. I appreciate you.
Sorry about the
time
technical
out.
difficulties in the first.
Oh,
15
we all
minutes.
made it. It's all good. We're here. The conversation happened. Hey, we learned. We learned about it. Now we'll have to make sure next time.
Yeah, now I know. So, all right, I appreciate you guys.
Awesome.
And now you have an excuse to tell Don to build a podcast studio inside that new modern office you guys have over there.
We have plenty of room too.
Yeah,
actually, is a good idea.
Wow. Perfect example, dude. Perfect example. Boom.
Yeah, right.
All
right, everybody.
All right.
Well, thanks for the show, guys. Have a great day, great weekend, and reach out to Reed. There's his contact information. Subscribe to the show and keep watching every Friday at 12 Eastern. See y'all.
Lock and load.
All right. Thank you guys again.